What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Vanessa Davis, back for another episode of Rise and Thrive, where we talk about everything healing and wellness. I hope that you stay tuned. Everybody needs to heal from something, even if you don't think you do. So I hope that there's something in this video that speaks to you. So about 25 years ago in San Diego, there was a doctor. His name was Dr. Vincent Folletti. And he was working at the obesity clinic there and helping patients lose weight, people that were severely obese. And he was experiencing a lot of success. His patients were losing 50, 80, 100 pounds, which was great. And so in these interviews, he found that majority of the patients there had experienced some type of abuse when they were children. And these patients, just for context's sake, majority of them were white males, had health insurance. They had experienced multiple traumatic events in childhood. And so the ACEs study really revealed that trauma that we experience in childhood, and to the extent that we experience it, leads to later physical disease in our body. When I learned about the ACEs study, I had struggled with an eating disorder, which I really didn't understand. I didn't understand why I had an eating disorder. And so hearing about that really made sense. Like, okay, the stuff that I experienced as a child is definitely still impacting me today. And so a lot of times it makes sense that that's the case, that childhood trauma leads to later physical disease, because there's things that we do to cope that negatively impact our body. And so, a lot of times people use drugs, alcohol, unprotected sex to cope with what it is that they're experiencing. But this study showed that even when that's not the case, even when you are someone that physically takes care of your body, that trauma can still lead to actual physical disease. And so that always kind of struck me, like, why is that? And so I developed this model, which I'm going to put up on the screen, and it's called the cycle of dis-ease. And it really depicts how these traumatic events lead to actual physical disease in our body. So let's just talk about the human brain for a moment. So the human brain, your brain, it was designed to keep you safe. And a way that it does that is by creating patterns and habits so that you can respond quickly. So your brain is very, very tied to the patterns that it creates, and it will continuously prompt you to respond the same way because it believes that it's keeping you safe. And a lot of times it's keeping you in bondage. So it can either act as your superhero or your supervillain. Another thing that the brain does is to alert us when we're in danger. So when it senses a danger, our bodies will start to respond to that danger. It'll start releasing adrenaline into our bodies to alert us that we are getting ready to die, that we need to run, or that we need to fight. And a lot of times we're not getting ready to die. We can have these hormones, cortisol released simply. We can't find our cell phone, and we're looking for our cell phone, and we're so nervous because we can't find our cell phone. And literally we're releasing these adrenaline hormones into our body that eventually make us sick, because that's how we've been conditioned since childhood. And the brain also acts as a parasite. So it's constantly feeding on our emotions and our mental states, and motivating us to act in certain ways. And so if we are not aware of what's happening in our bodies with our brain and our mind-body connection, more than likely your brain is acting as a supervillain and you don't know it. And so a model that I developed to really depict this is, I call it the cycle of dis-ease. And I'm really big on words. And so dis-ease, back in the day, years and years and years ago, I don't even know how many years ago, but disease was actually called dis-ease because doctors really realized that when there's something the matter with you, it can eventually lead to some physical manifestations. And so when you think about when you experience a traumatic event, the first lingering side effect of trauma that we experience is really doubt. You think about what it is that when you're a child and you're in an unsafe situation, it causes you to doubt your parents' abilities to care for you. It causes you to doubt that, you're good enough, that you have everything you need to be safe. And you're not really aware when you're a child that what you're experiencing is doubt. You might feel the emotions, you might feel fear, you might not even still know what that is, but the lingering mental state that it creates in us is doubt. And doubt really is the number one silent killer that all of us experience and face, is our own self-doubt. It's the greatest enemy from within that we experience. And the thing about doubt is that it breeds more doubt. So like I said, your brain will look for patterns and habits. So if you experience doubt as a child, your brain will constantly have you looking for doubt. Like everything will be something that reinforces your own self-doubt. You'll start to make decisions from that doubt. You'll just live your life with these doubt sunglasses on, seeing the world through your own self-doubt, and you don't realize that that's how you're viewing the world. And doubt's secret weapon, it really is its invisibility. It's like a non-feeling. Like we don't really feel our own self-doubt. And we feel inadequate. We feel like we're not enough. And just to give you an idea, like with these two pictures right now. So you see a picture of a child that looks, downcast, sad. And then you see another picture of a child that seems to be in a happy, stable family situation. And you can look at these pictures as just like moments in time, but I just want you to take a moment and look at these pictures as if these are these children's consistent states. So the child in both pictures, that they're always that way. And you can imagine just growing up how the child that looks downcast, those behaviors and beliefs based on their own doubt, their own unstable childhood, how that would manifest into who they felt that they were as an adult, versus the child that had, both parents, seems like a very loving environment, how they would grow up. And so when we are in doubt, it's not something that feels good to us. It's something that we feel like we have to resolve. And since we feel inadequate, we feel the need to resolve it outside of ourselves. And so we search for things outside of ourselves to give us a sense of self, to make us feel okay in our own skin. And the paradox of it all is that the whole healing journey is to get us back to a place of realizing that you are not going to resolve yourself looking outside of yourself. Like you have to look inside. But anyways, we go on this quest to try to figure out the things that we need to feel more okay with ourselves. And so this can be us needing, whatever it is that you use to cope. It could be you need a lot of achievement. You need recognition constantly to have a sense of self. You need possessions. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's you need drama. You need chaos because you're used to it. Like you need something to make you feel okay. And this creates discontentment. So from doubt that we experience, this leads to discontentment. And discontentment, like I said, I'm big on words. So DIS, that prefix before a word, is really, it really means like the undoing of something. So discontentment is really you're undoing your ability to be content, to be at peace, to be at rest, because you're constantly looking outside of yourself to be okay. And this shows up in so many different ways, and it really leads to us attaching ourselves to things, attaching ourselves to certain identities, certain roles, and eventually that attachment leads to addiction. And people look at addiction as, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, which that can be a form of discontentment, but it can also just be addiction to the roles that you play in life, addiction to needing to feel needed, addiction to constantly needing to achieve at work. And so this discontentment, it's an illusion because we never really are fulfilled. Like, we think once we get this certain thing that we'll finally be happy, and then we get that thing and then we realize that we're still not happy, and then it always like shape shifts into something else. Like, you got what you thought you needed to be happy, and then it's like, oh, you actually need one more thing. And you know, I see this a lot just even in my own friendships and relationships with my women friends, with like the desire to be in a relationship or to be married. People think that as soon as they get into that relationship that they'll finally be happy, and then they get in that relationship and then it's a whole other host of issues and they're still not happy. And sometimes it causes them to even be more unhappy, because then they really start thinking like, what's wrong with me? I thought this is what I needed to be happy. And then this discontentment, it really causes us to feel shame and want to hide ourselves. And so that feeling of shame and wanting to hide ourselves eventually leads us to feeling disconnected. And disconnected can mean disconnected from your purpose, because with discontentment, you're constantly looking outside of yourself to be happy. And so you're not looking inside of yourself. You're not connecting with yourself, which can cause you to disconnect from your purpose. It can be disconnection from the mind-body connection. If you're using substances or other things to cope with your feelings, your mind-body connection is becoming disconnected. It can also be disconnection from people. You're isolating yourself. You're lonely. You're not able to connect with people. And so this constant cycle of doubt, discontentment, disconnection, doubt, discontentment, disconnection. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. Why should I bother? I need to prove something. I can't make a mistake. All of that, those beliefs flowing in you, those behaviors, those emotions, leads to actual physical disease in our bodies. And so when I say that the greatest barrier that we face is our own self-doubt, it really is. It really is. Just to give like a real example of this, let's say you were in a relationship before and, you know, it was a loving relationship. Well, you thought it was a loving relationship, and then that person, because we all think they're loving at first, but then that person cheats on you, and, you know, you guys end up breaking up because of that infidelity. And then you move into another relationship and you haven't taken the time to like heal. And really, what is that? You know, we say heal, but what does that look like? A lot of times it's getting you back from a place, like I said, of doubt to believing that you can have a great loving relationship and a new relationship, that you're enough of a person, that person cheating on you didn't leave this lingering feeling in you that you feel like you're not enough. But we don't take the time to heal, and so we take these beliefs and these feelings about ourselves and relationships into the next relationship. So we become into the relationship doubtful, and then we start to see everything through that doubt lens. So we judge this new relationship by the experience we've had in the past relationship. And so we just start naturally doubting that person. Like in the beginning, we try to, you know, we're walking, you know, we're putting our best foot forward. But eventually our own doubt lens starts to come out. We start doubting, you know, when that person doesn't call us right back or they don't text us right back, whatever it is, it comes out, and you start feeling discontent. You start feeling like you're not satisfied in this relationship. You don't understand why. You start looking for ways to cope in that relationship. And eventually it leads you to being disconnected from that person. And so it affects our work. You come into a work environment with your own self-doubt. You eventually, so many people, they get this job and they're so happy that they got the job. They want to, you know, do so many things. And then very slowly with time, you start to realize that your doubt is, well, you don't realize it, but you start to become discontent, and then you start to become disconnected. It plays out in so many different areas of our life. And the only way to really move past that is to become aware. To become aware that this cycle that you're on, that your emotional patterns, that your whole sense of who you think you are is based on doubt. And once you start to recognize that, you are on the path to healing yourself. And so in our next video, we are going to talk about the persona that being on this cycle takes, which is our own ego. and how that impacts us being in relationships and being in community. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know, just share your thoughts with me. I'm just curious, are you aware of doubt and its role that it plays in your life? Let me know, leave it down in the comments, and I hope to see you next time.